So it looks like something's missing from my desk. I wonder what could that be? Well, this is the SMSL DO400. It was a DAC for my whole system, and now I have found it. This is a mid-range DAC/headphone amplifier priced at $499 on most websites, but Audiophile is doing you a favor. They have this priced lower at $458 at the moment of filming this video review. They are one of the most important sellers and importators of SMSL audio. They are the ones providing us today with this sample for this video review, and Audiophile is one of the best stores to grab your audio purchases from. The SMSL DO400, this is an intriguing unit because at this point SMSL has produced more equipment for us music lovers than most companies. They do have so many options under their belt, and usually it is hard to choose an option because they do have a house sound that is not quite on the taste for everyone out there, and the DO400 comes to change that. This is the first SMSL product that will be fully recommended by me because I actually like how it sounds. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let's see what this unit has in store for us if you actually want to purchase it. Well, at the front we have a mini display which still has a little protection on it because usually I tend to scratch those while taking the B-rolls and the photos for them because I would typically have this placed in my bag or in my backpack and it scratches against IEMs and other products. So I decided to leave that on until I do finish with the photo and the video work. We have 3 headphone outputs on the right side of the unit. We have a single-ended 6.35mm jack headphone output. We have a 4.4mm balanced headphone output and an XLR balanced headphone output. We have a little volume wheel here. It is a digital controller that has hard steps and you can press on it to cycle through the menus of the DO400. At the back, we have more inputs and outputs than we typically require, and we can do a complete system setup with the DO400. We have a kettle plug for power, and right next to it there is a fuse. This kettle plug means that there is a power converter inside of the DO400, which is nice because you don't have to worry about power bricks that will have an inherent noise. We do have an on-off switch. We have the inputs, which include a USB input, a coaxial RCA input, we have the optical input, and we have the I2S input, and also the ES EBO input. I am not the biggest fan of the I2S and ES EBO because I have literally never really used them in practice unless doing a review. They're not my first choices, but I do like the optical, coaxial and the USB input. Those are very practical. There is also an antenna because this one can receive wireless signals, and by wireless I mean Bluetooth. It has a 5.1 receiver which does support LDAC, aptX HD, aptX, SBC and AAC. Very comprehensive list of codecs supported by the DO400. It's interesting that the specifications are always a bit harder to read from companies that don't invest so much in marketing. Yet this kind of company, like SMSL, will always provide us with a very satisfying sound for the price paid for their products. So they're always worthy to look at. The DO400 is a pretty lightweight unit for what it can deliver. It is not very tall, it is actually quite short, so it has more than enough space beneath my television. I could even place a headphone amplifier on top of it and still have space left beneath my television, which is really good because I have seen more and more people using a television as a monitor for their setups. Especially when you are an audiophile, you tend to also be into video, into movies, and into multimedia in general. So I do think that shorter units are better for us music lovers. In terms of RCA outputs, we have an XLR output and an RCA output. Those can work at the same time, and I have been using them at the same time to connect the XLR balanced output to an external amplifier, this time around to the SMSL AO200 Mark II to power the KLH Model 5 I have in the back, and also I've used the RCA output to power a subwoofer, and I think that is needed for most speakers. I might likely upgrade the subwoofer because right now I'm running an Adam Audio T7S, which is not disappointing, but it is not outstanding either. The bass lags behind the bass of the speakers quite a bit because it has a very slow driver. So maybe I will be doing a review on what a good subwoofer sounds like and what I discover my next adventure to be. The DO400 as such works for both speakers and headphones. And you do have to select the output that you prefer because it doesn't seem to detect whether a headphone is inserted or not. So if you select all line outs in the menu, it will play both line outs for the speakers, but it does not see if you insert a headphone. So you have to go into the menu and select outputs and select the headphone output if you want to switch between them. On the other hand, I have used the 4.4mm balanced output more than the XLR balanced output because I find it simpler to find good cables for that. Usually XLR based cables are quite thick, quite long, and only for desktop. And I like to not swap the cables on the headphones too often. So I will leave a 4.4mm balanced cable on the headphones so that I can quickly swap it and take it outdoors. This rather natural sized unit has so much driving power for headphones. You're looking at 6,000 milliwatts or 2, so for each channel at 16 ohms. At 32 ohms we have 3000 milliwatts, at 300 ohms we have 700 milliwatts, and at 600 ohms we have 350 milliwatts of power. This has to be one of the strongest headphone amplifiers out there, and remember the price point below $500 US. The DAC chip inside is an AS9039MS Pro chip, which is the first time I'm hearing this name. This is the first implementation that I'm seeing on this DAC chip, which is pretty cool. It does come with the remote from SMSL, and it is always the same remote as I've noted in my other video reviews on SMSL products, the SMSL RC8A. And although I did note in some of my videos and even in written reviews that the remote is the same, it actually is not the same, and it doesn't work across SMSL products, which can be a bit of a good thing and a bit of an annoyance. So the remote looks exactly the same. You cannot see a difference between those two remotes. They have the same buttons, the same everything, but the remote for the DO400 is an RC8C, and the remote for an AO200 Mark II is an RC8A. And that sounds like a convenient thing because you can have two remotes on the desk and use one for each, but at the same time they look so similar. I mean, they look exactly the same, so you will often grab the wrong remote. So you have to have them placed in different positions and different locations, which defeats the purpose of having two remotes handy. So yeah, to use the remote on the DO400, you need to have the 8C next to the 8A. So it is a bit of a nuisance for me, but you do have to deal away with the negative talk because DO400 doesn't deserve, it really doesn't deserve negative talk for how much of a performance it has for such a low price. I have started pairing it with EMs like I do with most sources, and with EMs it is phenomenal. It can drive EMs with excellent control, dynamics, and impact without having an audible noise floor or background hissing. It does seem to have very slight hissing with very sensitive EMs, but that is to be expected when you price something at $500 US but give it 6 watts of power per channel at 16 ohms. Happily you can control the volume finely enough so that you don't have to worry, it won't blow your eardrums out, and it does allow you to have enough control for most EMs. The volume is not in steps, it is in minus decibels, which I find odd because this is one of the rarest products that has this implementation, but it works okay. For headphones, it has not only enough control but also enough driving power to drive most headphones out there, and I'm talking stuff like HiFiMan Hershey 1000 Special Edition, HiFiMan Audivina, Cross Zone CZ8A, Roson RAD0, Kennerton Thrower, LSA HP1, and basically all of the headphones at 6 watts per channel at 16 ohms and 350 milliwatts per channel at 600 ohms. It will be enough for most headphones in the world. It will be more complicated to find a headphone it can't drive than to find headphones that it can drive. And I have to say this, even brought at the maximum level, it still has good control, although I would say that even for hard to drive headphones, the best sound will be at minus 20 decibels, above which it tends to be a bit forced in the sound, but that is still okay. It still gives you more than enough loudness, and it will still be at 105 decibels for most headphones. You don't have to worry about the driving power. So it is fair to suspect that there are some op-amps in the signal path before the line out happens, which is again not a problem. It doesn't introduce a heavy amount of distortion, and the overall DAC performance is phenomenal. You can hear incredible levels of detail, clarity, there is no background hissing, no background noise, and no electronic noise from the computer. This being said, I did notice like a slight sound that happens sometimes in the background, which seems to be coming from my computer, and there seems to be like a minor compatibility issue with my computer when using the DO400. This means that it is recommended to use a better USB cable or something that isolates your computer noise if you have a noisy computer motherboard. Now, in terms of the overall signature, this is the first SMSL product that doesn't follow the same SMSL sound that we've heard to date. It does not follow the same kind of mid-forward sound that SMSL has. This one is clear, this one is clean, and this one is pretty neutral. It doesn't really have much of a coloration, although I did notice a very pleasing bass, a lot of substance in the bass, and a lot of impact in the bass. It is so pleasing to hear with all headphones. It is not mid-range forward, it is not flat sounding, it doesn't lack dynamics, and while most entry-level SMSL products so far did not impress me with their performance, the DO400 really outshines every single one of them. I typically note that SMSL does not have a very detailed sound. Well, the DO400 has a really detailed sound. This one is in line with HiFiMan EF400, and it actually has a lower background noise and a lower noise floor than the EF400, while having a very similar driving power, which is interesting because the EF400 is a bit taller, so if you prefer a smaller device, then the DO400 will be preferable. The EF400 is an R2R DAC though, so it can have a very different tuning, much softer, much more relaxed than the DO400, which is generally very peppy, very energetic, very forward, and very aggressive. I like this kind of presentation the most because it can make metal music, rap music, EDM music, dubstep sound really incredible. So DO400 is a master of sounding live and alive. The soundstage is really wide, really holographic. It can create very good instrument separation, instrument layering. Everything just sounds natural. It is perfect. I really enjoy the overall tuning of the DO400. It's like it places you right in the middle of action. It gives you access to the finest details in your songs. It gives you access to a never heard and never seen before sound. It gives you access to hearing sound as it happens live and alive. There are filtering options, which honestly don't do much because usually filters don't change the sound very much. There are some settings about the speed of the USB decoder so that if you are experiencing any kind of audio dropouts, you can set those to 0. And this is something I've noticed when comparing the FIO K9 Pro with the DO400. So FIO K9 Pro has a software driver that you need to install, while DO400 works driverless. There are no drivers available or recommended to install for those. Now, the K9 Pro is a bit taller. It gets much warmer during usage. So the K9 Pro you can expect to be much warmer. It has a lower background noise, but the K9 Pro has this little issue. If your computer is quite busy, for example, if you are processing a large number of videos in the background or using the GPU at the maximum or the CPU at the maximum, the K9 Pro is more likely to have sound dropouts, which is something unexpected, and it is a driver issue. You have to reinstall the driver and you have to set the driver for a lower buffer to stop that from happening. While if you are a beginner, that is something that can sound a bit scary at first. It is something solvable with the FIO K9 Pro. With the DO400, you don't have that issue in general. It just has a smaller buffer for the USB drivers. So not only you are not expected to have that issue, it is generally unlikely to happen. FIO K9 Pro also has a lower amount of control with IEMs. So since the volume starts at about 9 o'clock, that is a position where it is already quite loud compared to the DO400, which can be quite quiet at the minimum level. This being said, the FIO K9 Pro has a more dynamic sound, better detail and better resolution, but it can be more forward and more aggressive than the DO400, which comes through as being warmer with a bigger bass and more laid back in the tuning. All in all, SMSL has done it again. They created a device that is perfect for the pricing. You literally pay very little for the performance you get because most other options in this price range don't have this amount of driving power, those many features. They don't have LDAC, Bluetooth input and such, and they don't have the support that you get from Audiophile. Never forget, Audiophile is one of the best stores to order from, and if you don't want to use their own store, they are also available on Amazon, and you can get a very good service and very good customer protection from Amazon too. I do hope that your thoughts, dreams and music tastes are protected while watching Audiophile Heaven. Please like this video if you enjoyed the content. Also subscribe to Audiophile Heaven if you are having fun. I would really appreciate if you could share this video with your friends and close ones if you find my content entertaining and fun. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope we'll see each other really soon. Bye bye!